for our next transformation, we're going to use this example where we're being asked to graph the function of g of x being negative square root of x and g of x equals the square root of negative x. Please keep in mind that whatever our radicand is, whatever is inside our square root, because it's an even root, has to be positive. So we're going to have to make some restrictions for our domain. For the first one, my x has to be greater than or equal to 0. For the square root of, g of x equals negative square root of x. For our next one, because my negative x inside the radicand has to be positive, that means I can only have negative x values to make my number inside be positive. So my domain for this particular function, the square root of negative x, has to be restricted to only the negative numbers and 0. Just so you know, this will be my restricted domain. Now, again, using your graphing calculator, what happens for the function negative times the square root of x if we compare it to just the basic function f of x equals square root of x without any negatives? Every value becomes now negative, and our graph reflects with respect to the x-axis. We take this as a mirror, this x-axis as a mirror, and reflect every point. So if you want to start making observations, the negative square root of x reflected over the x-axis. Now for our g of x equals the square root of negative x, remember we restricted our domain. Only the negative values I can only graph my function on the negative values of x. And it looks like my graph was reflected with respect to the y-axis. This will be a vertical reflection. And if you want to take notes, reflect over y-axis. Once we start having combinations of transformations, we can call it vertical reflection or horizontal reflection for the reflection with respect over the x-axis. And we can start setting up our transformation rules. The graph y equals negative f of x is the same as the graph of y equals f of x reflected across the x-axis. And our points will be transformed by xy from xy to x negative y. If we have on the y equals f of negative x, it's the exact same graph as y equals f of x reflected across the y-axis. Remember the vertical reflection. And this time my points are transformed from xy to negative xy.